Hi everyone, Artie Tambaramba, also known as Tammy Klinger, sharing this art journal page with you today for Art by Marlene. So as you can see, it's gorgeous florals and bright watercolours and yeah, so let's get straight into it. So I used the new Perfect Size journal with the smooth pages, and then I grabbed out the signet from the latest signature collection, the last paper pack. And the flowers, I love that sheet with those flowers, and it reminded me a lot of a mask or a stencil that Marlene put out a while ago from the Sophisticated range. So I grabbed that one as well. I also grabbed a bit of scrap paper, but I didn't end up using it. I've also got the sticky quotes. I've got this awesome new stamp, which I love so much, which is called Notes. And I've also got the little paper elements, the luxury paper elements, those little vintage people with the colour. So that's what I'm using. Oh, and the new watercolours. And I'm just kind of working out, I could just see those flowers sitting above that little girl. So I guess the little girl is where I began the page from, and she's got some flowers on her dress, which reminded me of the flowers that are in that piece of paper, which I hadn't used yet, and then also in that stencil. So she was my jumping off point this time. And so what I did is I cut around some of that paper just to kind of cut out some of the flowers, and then I've laid it across my page. So that's going to be at the top, and then I sort of want some colour to sort of run and drip down from underneath it. So for that I have grabbed the watercolours, and these are the new watercolours, and I've just added some water to them. And I don't think about this bit too much, I just want to get that colour down. Now you can probably see the glaring light that's across my page. I mean, it's lovely to have a little bit of sunshine in Clare because it has been a cold winter. But I just have found lately life is taking over a little, getting in my way of my art time, and I usually try and do my videos first thing so that I don't have that afternoon sun, but it hasn't been possible, so I'm really sorry about it. I aim to get my life more sorted and then wish me luck, and then hopefully I won't have that problem happening. So what I've done is I've worked with your purples and some pinks that I've just pulled out of the centre of some of those flowers that are in the sheet of paper, and I'm just kind of adding them down. I just popped them down and then let some of them drip, and then added flicks of paint, and I just want it to look quite messy. And what I did then was I came in with that stencil of those blooms, and I added a bit more bluey colour and then pulled that off using a wet baby wipe. And it's just when you do that with paint, you obviously get acrylic paint, you get a very strong contrast. But as I'm using watercolours, it just gives a really subtle bit of variance to the background. So it's kind of hard to see on camera, but there's a few little bits of floral shapes in the background. So I just want to deepen some of those up a bit. So now I'm coming in with Marlene's a pink ink that was Marlene's from I think that was last year's advent calendar, and I'm just brushing it down through the stencil just to give a little bit more definition. And then using that same pink ink, I've come in with one of the stamps. There's so many cool stamps in this note set, but there's one that's like lined paper with scribbles, and I've just added that into my background. Now I used both the pink ink, and then I also used a little bit of black archival ink, remembering that the pink ink will activate a little bit again, but that's okay because I just want it to be a little bit grungy and a little bit messy. But just to deepen up some of that watercolour, I have come in and brushed some Distress Oxide through the stencil as well, just to deepen up some of those areas. So I'm really liking how this looks. Now obviously I'm going to cover up the top half of the page, so I don't need to add, stacks of paint up there because it's just going to be wasted. So I'm concentrating sort of halfway and 3/4 down the page. Love those little pops of blue it's sort of like a bluey purple. I think it's blue, but it's mixed with the pink and it looks a bit more purpley. But I love that little bit of definition that is coming in there. So now I am trying to work out where to put her, and I do not want her dead in the centre. I know that, even though that's where I've put her at the moment. I sort of was going to put her on that side, but I came in on the left side. I came in with the really cool You Sweet Charming Cute and stamped it, and just didn't stamp it quite far enough over, so it just ruined that ability to put her there because it would cover up the wording, and I want to be able to read that wording. So I've decided to pop her on the right hand side, and then I'm just using the sticky glue to glue it all down and then trimming off the excess. So yeah, I think that's pretty much where I decide to put her. So you'll notice I stamped that stamp in a couple of different places across my page. Some of it coming off of the page, not stamped directly. You don't want things too centered. You want them to be off center a little bit. So now I've come in with my mermaid acrylic paint because I just love that little pop of aqua that's showing up in her skirt, and I decide I need to add a little bit of that, and it'll be a nice contrast to the pink that I've popped down. So I'm actually I started by doing smaller circles, just little random dots, and then I did a couple of stuff ups and a couple of big blobs. So instead of wiping it off, I've just gone with it, and I've just made some of the other blobs bigger as well, just to marry it all together and for it to look like I did it on purpose and not look like it's a mistake. I've also added a few dots with the paints into the background of the flowers, just to give them a little bit more interest, a bit more colour. So you'll see I did the dots in kind of, coming down from the flowers, and I just did one little edge as well just to tie it in. And now I need to go around the edges of the flowers I'm using a Stabilo All pencil, which is a black water-soluble pencil. You could use any sort of water-soluble pencil, but I really like the Stabilo All because it's really black when you add the water. So as soon as you add the water, it sort of starts to blend and you'll get a really lovely looking shadow. So it just helps the edges to pop away from that background. So it brings the flowers forward so that it look like they're sitting up against the background. So now I'm adding the little girl down, and so I'm just grounding her, so giving her a little bit of a shadow to stand upon. And then I'm simply scribbling that Stabilo All pencil around the edge of my page. I often use paint to do this, black paint, but I hadn't got my black acrylic paint out, so I thought I'd just use what I had on the table on my desk. So now I'm happy. I'm gluing her down and adding a few highlights with a white pen, and I think I also, with the little dots of blue mermaid, I did go around those in black pen and then a little bit of white highlight on them just to make it look more natural. So I'm sorry about the shadows and the light across the page, as I said, but hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. Now I just want to define the little girl as well so that she looks like she's forward off of the background. So I'm just using a fine pen to do that because she is quite small. So I did feel like if I used the Stabilo All, it might sort of dissolve too much. So I just wanted to give her a little bit of definition. So now I'm going through my sticky quotes, and I actually end up adding some personal journaling to this. I think I've talked about this before to you guys, but my art journaling is certainly the place for me to process things and for me to get my head back on straight when it's on a little bit crooked. So I've just done some personal journaling that this little girl reminded me of, with her youth and her sweetness. So I've just done personal journaling, but I have added a quote to the right hand side of her that says, "Your body hears everything your mind says." So there we have it. That is it. I'm really happy with how this one came up. Marlene had done most of the hard work for me. Her papers are just awesome. You know, really just needed a little bit of background, and it came together quite well. So I'll leave you with close-up so you can just see some of the stamping and some of the effects I've got in the background, that grunginess that really works. So thanks so much for joining me. I will be back in a week or so with another video. Until then, don't forget to leave me a comment.